Affliction Warlock might have one of the highest skill ceilings in Mythic Plus, but you don't need to be a master to start doing real damage. If you ever tried this spec and bounced off because it felt slow, clunky, or weird, this version might surprise you. Hellcaller brings a whole new rhythm to Affliction that rewards smart dotting, cooldown timing, and feel powerful without being overwhelming. Affliction is one of the few specs in the game where nearly all of your damage comes from damage over time effects, what we usually call dots. You apply dots like Agony, Unstable Affliction, and Corruption to enemies, and then convert all of these dots into instant burst using Malefic Rapture, your main soul shard spender. You prep by applying your dots, you hit your cooldowns like Soul Rot, Dark Glare, and Malevolence, and then you dump a bunch of your Malefic Rapture for big AoE damage. The more dots you maintain, the more value you get out of your Malefic Raptures, which scale with the number of active dots on enemies. But Affliction also keeps you active between cooldowns through passive effects. For example, Tormented Crescendo gives your Shadow Bolt or Drain Soul a chance to make your next Malefic Rapture instant and free, as long as you got Agony, Corruption, and Unstable Affliction active. This keeps your pressure rolling even when you're outside of your cooldown windows. Then there's Nightfall, which makes your Corruption dot occasionally empower your filler spells, making Shadow Bolt instant or Drain Soul channel 50% faster with 25% more damage. So now that you know how the spec works, that's where the hero talents come in, and right now, one of them clearly stands out in Mythic Plus. So Affliction gets 2 hero talent trees, Hellcaller and Soul Harvester. And if you're doing Mythic Plus, Hellcaller is the clear winner. Let's break down why. Hellcaller upgrades Corruption into a stronger dot called Wither. That's the core of the build. Then you get Malevolence, a 1-minute cooldown that buffs Wither stacks, gives you haste, and does bonus damage when you spend Soul Shards. It lines up naturally with your AoE setup and gives your rotation a fast, explosive rhythm. Now, Soul Harvester is also viable, especially if you're just learning the spec. It gives you 3 Soul Shards for free every time you cast Soul Rot, making it easier to plan your burst. But in terms of raw power and high-end performance, Hellcaller is a stronger pick for Mythic Plus right now. Affliction's single target rotation is all about planning and upkeep. You're constantly thinking ahead, setting the stage for your next burst window, and managing your dots and procs carefully. Here's the priority system in order of importance. The top priority is maintain your core dots. Agony, Wither, which replaces Corruption if you run Hellcaller, Unstable Affliction, and Haunt, which should be on the same target as Unstable Affliction, as both of them can apply to only one target at a time. You want these 4 effects active. Haunt has a 15-second cooldown and lasts 18 seconds, so you can maintain it for 100% of the time. Unstable Affliction and Haunt should always be on your highest health or boss target. The next priority is avoid overcapping resources. If you're at 5 Soul Shards, spend 1 on Malefic Rapture. If you're at 2 Tormented Crescendo stacks, spend 1. Even though it's ideal to use Tormented Crescendo procs inside your cooldown window, you don't want to waste a proc by sitting at 2 stacks. The next priority is to use Drain Soul if Nightfall is at 2 stacks. Nightfall empowers your Drain Soul to channel 50% faster and deal 25% more damage. Don't sit at 2 stacks, use 1 to avoid missing more procs. The next priority is refresh Agony with Vile Taint every 30 seconds. This not only reapplies Agony to multiple targets, but also applies Curse of Exhaustion and does a little bit of extra damage by itself. The next priority is to activate your cooldowns when your dots are set. Soul Rot, Summon Dark Glare, and Malevolence. These should be used together once your dots are active. They massively amplify your Malefic Rapture damage and generate burst windows. The final priority, spend Soul Shards on Malefic Rapture. After cooldowns are active, dump your Soul Shards for big Rapture burst. This is your main spender, and it scales based on how many dots you have active. Aim to get as many Raptures in as possible while the buffs are rolling. In AoE, Affliction plays very differently from specs that just spam 1 button. You're still setting up dots and spending Soul Shards on Malefic Rapture, but the way you apply and sequence things changes depending on the pack size, health, and how fast they die. Here's how to handle it step by step. The top priority is to set up the pool. Seed of Corruption. Cast this first on the central target as mobs are being grouped. When it detonates, it'll apply Wither, your Corruption replacement from Hellcaller, to everything nearby. And then Vile Taint. Cast this immediately after Seed to apply Agony to all targets and start generating soul shards. If the pack's dying fast, consider saving your next Vile Taint for the following pull. The next priority is to funnel into your priority target. Even in AoE, you still want to focus your Haunt and Unstable Affliction on the highest health mob. This lets you maintain uptime on your key dots, get more Tormented Crescendo and Nightfall procs, and funnel a bit of bonus damage into tougher enemies. The next priority is to activate your cooldowns when the dots are set. Once Wither, Agony, Unstable Affliction, and Haunt are active, pop your cooldowns, Soul Rot, Summon Dark Glare, and Malevolence, just like single target. The next priority is to dump your soul shards on Malefic Rapture. This is your main AoE spender, and it scales on the number of dots you have out. After the cooldowns are rolling, spam Malefic Rapture to convert all of these Withers, Agonies, and Soul Rot ticks into instant AoE damage. Try to get as many Raptures as possible inside the Malevolence window, just like in single target. Well, Affliction isn't for everyone, but if you like the idea of managing a dozen spinning plates while timing a mini nuke every minute, this pack delivers. It's not about flashy spells or instant feedback, it's about setting up, pressing smart buttons, and watching things rot in style. If this video helped you, consider dropping a like and subscribing for more rotation guides like this one. As always, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.